What's going on, America? This is Kevin from Kevin's Corner. And I got to address Softcore Van Jones, who was on the Wendy show. Okay. Now, somebody sent me the clip, one of the people who subscribed to my YouTube channel. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, how much more pandering can Van Jones do? He comes out, and Wendy is, oh, you're looking so great and this and that. We're happy to have you back on the show, with no bass in his voice. He comes in and says, oh, thank you. I'm so glad to be here. And he's sitting like this and he's just so happy to be here. And she starts talking about his new show and so on and so forth. And this guy immediately starts panning to the Me Too movement. And he talks about how the men need to start just listening to the women. Now, didn't really say about what. I think what she started off talking about was, now that you got your own show and all of these anchormen and newscasters and hosts of their own shows are getting caught up in scandals. And he was just like, men need to start listening to the women. And I'm thinking, okay, in what regards? Okay. And does this just blanketly mean that every man across America? I think most men have enough common sense to know the difference between going too far with a woman and not. Now, here's the thing. Maybe he should apply that simply to the people in that particular field, because obviously, if this is happening, a lot of it could be contributed to the fact that once these guys hit a certain status, maybe they think that they can just do whatever they want. But the average guy walking around isn't going, you know what? I work at GM, but I got enough clout to just go up to any woman and say, hey, you know who I am? I'm Frank Persek that works for GM. Now, I need you to take off your shirt, okay? Because I'm a man, you're a woman, and I should be able to do what I want to do. The average guy, I think they got enough intelligence to know not to do that. So he's saying, listening to the women, and I'm going, okay, listen to them in what manner? Please break that down. Don't just blanketly say that men need to start listening to the women, as if all men fall into this category of being insensitive and just being ignorant to how to deal with, interact, and approach a woman. That's the first thing that made me upset listening to Van Softcore Jones. Okay. Then she starts bringing up Kanye West. My man just can't seem to stay out the media, apparently. But he goes, oh, he's sitting there with his hands crossed like this. Then he starts to talk about how mad he was when Kanye brought up the whole 400 years of slavery comment. And he said, he said that black people, they wanted to be, they made a choice to be in slavery. Well, guess what? Black people made a choice not to buy your records if they want to. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, first things first, Van Jones, please take the comment in context, okay? I did a video on it. Maybe I should send that video directly to you so you can understand the difference of what Kanye West was talking about when he's talking about being in slavery or wanting to be in slavery, okay? It's probably kind of like where you're at now, Van. You don't realize that the propaganda you're spewing and you trying to defend these liberal views with shutting down people's conservative views or opinion is also a form of willfully being in mental slavery, because you don't have to say these things, Van. You don't have to. You willfully do it. And so what happened is when he was talking about the slaves, after so long, it's no longer a will within inside of them to break free. And he's not talking about every single slave, because obviously there were slaves that wanted to break free. And if they were caught, they paid a mega price. But they never became slaves mentally. They always said, as soon as I see a crack or an opening or a way to get free, I am gone. Versus the slaves that just became content with that particular lifestyle. I don't know how many ways people can break this down to the left. Maybe I should do a diagram like, okay, here's slavery. Here's the person who broke them down. Okay, let's walk through it again, because obviously you can't get the analogy. Anyway, so he talks about that, and they reference a radio station in Detroit that refuses to play his records now. And I'm thinking, okay, how about I don't know. I'm assuming not a lot of, conservatives listen to this radio station, but for them to do something like that further shows how the left have become what they accuse the right of being. It is straight socialism. It's, you know what? Either you're going to do what we say, think how we think, and agree with what we agree with, or we're going to do everything we can to isolate you, block you off, keep you from prospering, silence your voice, because guess what Van Jones did right after that? He immediately starts to talk about Kanye's mental state. And he's like, oh, yes, I spoke to some, because, Wendy brings it up first. He's not well. He's not well. And Van Jones, yes, I talked to some people who's really close to him. Who? Who, Van? Who did you talk to? I talked to some people who was really close to him, and they say he might have went back into a state of manic depression or whatever. And that is the final stage of discrediting you. They did the same thing to Trump. Donald Trump's crazy. Donald Trump's out of his mind. He's suffering from dementia. Now they're trying to do the same thing to Kanye. Oh, he has to be messed up in the mind for him to be vocaling these crazy thoughts. He's not well. Okay, so anybody who's paying attention to him, you're listening to a crazy man. That's what they're saying. But then he tops it off when she brings up R to the Kelly, okay, the aura. He tops it off by saying, you know what? There was a time when, the person in the White House, he said, I really like the last person in the White House. It was a little lisp. He's talking about him. And he said, it was a place of virtue, and Hollywood was a place of just, I guess, wild and crazy and, but then he says that now it's flip-flopped. I guess Hollywood is starting to become more virtuous, whereas the White House does not represent virtuism anymore. And I wanted to say, that's odd, because perception becomes reality. Meaning, if reality is suppressed and then they create a false perception of something, people who are looking at the false perception don't have an alternative reality. So therefore, that false perception becomes their reality. Now that's deep. So whether it is true or not, in that person's head or mind, it's true. So you take the last White House. To look at it on the surface, it looked great. Obama knew exactly how to speak. He could come out and really woo a crowd. He had the proper body language and so on and so forth. But nonetheless, when you looked underneath the blanket, you will see all of the corruption that was swept up under the rug, not only by him, the DOJ and the DNC and all of that stuff, but also by the funky liberal media whose job is to create false perceptions. Therefore, if you are not a truth seeker, you will see the false perception and buy into the lie. You dig? So that virtuous White House that he was looking at really on the inside was corrupt. I mean, they suppressed how they attacked through the IRS nonprofit organizations. They suppressed how they concoctioned a whole bunch of gibberish to spy on Donald Trump and his campaign. They suppressed how crooked it was to go into Libya and destroy Gaddafi. They suppressed all of this stuff. They suppressed the whole situation with Benghazi. They did a whole bunch of dirt, and now all that dirt's coming out. But yet this man still has the impression in his mind that that was a virtuous White House. It's no different than looking at somebody who comes to church and they got the big church hat. They got the biggest Bible, carry it in a briefcase. They know how to say all of the jargon. God bless you, brother. Good, good. You know what? Praise God. God is good. And they had the big claps. Those are the big claps right there. They know how to shout and all that stuff. But on the inside, they're going, I can't stand the fact that this man got a new car or they got a promotion. Ooh, you know what? I'm mad that she got married and I've been waiting for 10 years for my husband. I ain't got one yet. On the inside, a lot of stuff is going on that if you could see on the inside, you'd be like, ugh. But because you could only see on the outside, the perception is that person has it all together. It's kind of like Hillary. And I'm so glad the WikiLeaks emails showed us what was really going on the inside. People didn't want to read those though. No, they didn't want to see what was really in Hillary's heart. But if they take the time to see that, they'll realize the perception of Hillary Clinton For her being a politician and elegant, knowing just how to speak and what to say to the audience and so on and so forth. It was very calculated, all of those things. Oh, she created a wonderful perception. But the reality was she was corrupt, evil, and wicked. Now, with Donald Trump, I like the fact that he's very, very candid, transparent when it comes to what he's thinking and what he feels. We know what we're dealing with. And sometimes when people are candid and true, the truth hurts. When they spit stuff out and they say, let me bust your bubble of reality. You done created this perception that it's like this. But let me tell you how it really is on the border, where a lot of criminals are coming across the border. A lot of drugs are coming across the border, and we need to shut it down. Even though the Democrats have created this perception that every one of them coming across are gentle woodland creatures, but that's not the reality. Okay, it might be the reality in a lot of people's mind who've been tricked by the Democrats, but the reality is it's not like that. So people have to see what's really going on. When Van Jones makes a comment like, oh, the last White House was just a place of virtue. Now it's not like that anymore. You know, that was the reality between the White House, the funky liberal media that they created. But the reality was it was a den of corruption. And that is why Donald Trump's in there trying to drain the swamp, even though the swamp rats, they don't want to die. No, they don't want to die. They don't want the band to break up. The swamp rats, yeah, that's the whole band. They don't want that band to break up. They want to keep it going. Anyway, Van Jones needs to shut his trap. Or because for him to get out there and just mar a man's character and say, only reason he's saying these things is because he's mentally disturbed. Are you a doctor? I'm sorry. Are you a psychologist, Van? Have you interviewed him personally and diagnosed him to be, manic, as you call it? I just need to know. I mean, from now on, maybe we should all just do that from our couch. Maybe I should just look at you and say what you're saying out there. And, I could say, you know what? Van Jones is softcore. Van Jones probably grew up in a very nice, he went to Yale or wherever he went to. And I can tell just by the way he talks, maybe he ain't hardcore. He's pretty softcore. He's probably privileged growing. I can come up with all kind of just deductive reasonings. But you know what? I'm going to try to give you the benefit of the doubt. All right. Unless I know that, then I'm not going to throw stuff out there. So same thing with you. You might not want to just throw crazy and reckless statements out there like that, Van Jones. Okay. Now, you've been listening to Kevin and Kevin's Corner. I'm so glad I'm able to see the real reality and I'm not blinded and manipulated by the perception of reality that the phony, funky, dirty Democrats and the crooked liberal media have created. And that is why you got all these snowflakes and all these liberals running around thinking that the world is crashing, Donald Trump ruining everything. He's rolling back our rights. And look what he's doing with healthcare. Look what he's doing with the economy. Look what he's doing. He's getting us into war. And look this, he got KKK members in the White House. He's this, he's that. And in reality, it's not even like that. But in their mind, it is. So we can't be lulled into the whole false perception of what's really going on. And then it becomes real to the person because that's not the reality. All right. God bless you. Find me on Facebook, Twitter. Check me out on Wednesday night, 7:30 in Kevin's Corner. You want to donate to Kevin's Corner? Feel free. There are links in the bottom. And hopefully I'll see you again in Kevin's Corner. God bless.